When reflecting upon this highly influential and relevant class, it was quite difficult to narrow down the applications of mindfulness which holds great sway in our everyday lives. However, when approached from the most personal perspectives, mindfulness and the brain, alongside mindfulness and teaching, have been two of the most powerful areas to explore. Throughout the course of my life, I've been prone to epilepsy, which for a great deal of it contributed to mental strain and a strong period of loneliness, uncertainty in myself as a confident social individual, and certain safety restraints other children weren't restricted by. As my anti-seizure medications have continuously found their way, either succeeding into stabilizing my nerves or failing, leading to discouragement and the cycling of yet another, I have realized after a 22-year period that a healthy series of mindfulness practices is as key a player in quelling epileptic episodes as any pill seen on the shelves. Although a thin shroud of uncertainty amongst a fair share of stubborn medical professionals still lingers on if certain mindfulness practices such as meditation help or hinder the risk of seizures to occur, it cannot be argued that in the broader sense, its natural technique, being to manage stress in a healthier fashion, is both effective and encouraged. Unfortunately for me, my neurologists have been slightly unaware of the bigger picture and didn't bring up such ideas centered around mindfulness, an assisting element to our neurological functions, which tackles two of the biggest obstacles leading to increased risk of seizures: stress and sleep deprivation. Now, think about those two key words I just mentioned, stress and, well, hell, you can most certainly add on sleep deprivation to that. What has been going on around us over the last couple of years, which is just fine and dandy and not stressful and depressing in any way, shape, or form? From controversial politics leading to violent insurrections, to global pandemics lingering for years, to a brutal war in the East which holds the potential to escalate immensely if we're not careful, the stress output, in my case, at least alongside billions of others, has drastically increased, leading to the worry of an epileptic episode after being stable for over a year. This is where I take certain concepts such as mindfulness and the brain to heart, for the allowance of one to be aware of the world around them and their experiences within it facilitate the faculty of consciousness, thought, and gives an opportunity for mindfulness to assist the functionality of our poor little hard-working brains. Alongside this, I appreciate the mind's ability to assist the brain in helping to tame several of my friends' epileptic episodes I've made along the way at medical centers who suffer from severe depression and anxiety, two burdens which are also prime contributors to epileptic episodes. Through the select number of medical researches done centered around the mindful practices assisting neurological functionality, it continues to produce positive results to those who suffer from heavy levels of stress, depression, or anxiety all the same. Why mindfulness is not widely recommended by a larger amount of neurologists is questionable, riding on the back of not enough current concrete research and results, marking the two as an unreliable form of aid. I am personally glad to know such info myself, to share with my fellow friends, while continuing to relax my brain through my new mindfulness practices. And lastly, on the other side of things, one other key takeaway, which puts a heavier emphasis on the many rather than focusing on oneself, is the concept of mindfulness through teaching. Growing up, one of the prime players in getting into the social sphere in a positive light was through sports, primarily that of tennis. Having evolved from an entirely new young player to current collegiate player, club instructor, and recent camp director, I've had the chance to pass through numerous coaches above me, ones which, when I look upon them now after all those years, thank them for serving as distinct models on what to do and what to leave behind, when teaching children now myself in the most effective manner, while promoting social and emotional skills and respect towards one another and towards themselves. Now, I find mindfulness through teaching especially helpful in my case due to the multiple different jobs I've tackled relating to tennis. Although the same sport, yes, each has offered their various sets of children, each with unique personalities and drives. In private lessons, the instructor holds excellent flexibility with what they can carry out, only truly restricted by what they can manage. Say, for example, I'm assigned a private lesson with 2 children. One is barely old enough to hold a junior-sized racket and is completely dazed and confused throughout the entire duration. The other, her older sibling, who although is also starting from the ground up, is driven to succeed, and in return frustrated with her younger sister barely paying attention. Let me tell you, it is at most times difficult and stressful, but in equal measure rewarding. When looking at these 2 siblings constantly bickering and unfocused on the lesson, this may become frustrating, and a more direct approach may arise over time, which is okay if the situation calls upon it. Still, there are better ways about thinking purely through rational and empirical methods. Sometimes, the best way to approach problems is to emphasize the creative and intuitive approaches. In my experience, this is how to solve the issues best, which I believe is ordinary when teaching new, young players, and this course lesson supported my theory. Having experienced a few not-so-likable and ineffective teachers myself over the time I've played, I've seen they only focus on analyzing your drives, your serves, or volleys, explaining your faults with a sense of general detachment. What I wished for from these years later is a more robust social and emotional connection, developing instructional strategies which could better form, support, drive, and a sense of acceptance to yield better results. This is what I strive for in students now. Be it in private lessons, implementing awareness in one's social and emotional drives to garner better what the point of a lesson is truly about to increase comfort levels, or on the other grander scale, directing camps for 50+ kids at a time, crafting an agenda that emphasizes one's growing love and knowledge of the game, in a fashion which is flexible enough to integrate everyone in the best way possible. With a plethora of children, there is always inevitably a few more who are either ahead of the pack in the perspective of raw skill or social and emotional development, and a few who entirely aren't there yet. And although this is quite the challenge to initially approach, that is one of the chief reasons I love it so. I would not be able to lead a successful camp without the factors which construct a mindful learning experience, and although grateful to my old coaches who saw teaching as a 2D environment, I am glad now to take that mantle beyond the logical and linear approaches. This is a concept that I can implement and appreciate for the rest of my life, and at times, to the point of regretting not being an education major. You live and you learn, I suppose. Hope you all enjoyed.